Hello folks, I'm LA Little and this is your daily TA wrap. We take a look at these markets and we do it from a neoclassical perspective. Each time we ask ourselves what happened today, what does it tell us about the coming ones? I do this show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursday, live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time here from the base of the beautiful Rocky Mountains. Bear with me a second here while I get ready. I'm a little late starting today, but essentially another day of up. I mean, what can you say? If we pop over to the quotes here, you can see industrials were down slightly today. Boeing was pulling them down off of earnings in particular, although there were some others contributing. But the big movers again was in the NDX, and actually today it was interesting because last night I talked about the SOX was probably going to get hit. Well, the SOX did get hit, but it just still did not matter. Apple misses earnings, right? Unable to really hit the bar or jump the bar, I guess, yet powers higher by 3% today and just carries the NDX up all morning. And eventually it leads the rest of these indexes to break out. SPX actually gets a brand new high, finally hits that target 8750. That ABCD structure has been out there a very long time, finishes it off. Composite also skying up towards the highs again. Russell can't do anything, can't get going. Looking elsewhere, not that much happening, right? Just not much going on anywhere else. So the issue of whether or not this market was going to sell off to any degree still doesn't want to. All right, so let's look at let's actually look at the indexes and see what we got here. So let me pop over to the general market and bring up the S&Ps on a daily view, and here we go. So what do we got here? We got over the highs, right? That's going to be a breakout over the highs, just slightly over 1989. You're 11 points away from 2000 now, right? One of those big bad round numbers. So we'll have to see if that's going to matter to anybody. But so far, this market continues to just power up, and it's really not here as much as over in the NDX. The NDX did a doji, not the NDX, but the XLK did a doji. NDX just powers up, volume expands a little bit. That was an ABCD structure in place, another small one, and that one pretty much finished off as of tonight. Is that a ABCD? Yeah, from here though. So there's the ABCD, and that's pretty much done. So this has hit its target. S&P hit its long-standing target. Will that stop this thing? I don't know, because now you got another guy who wants to hit a target, and that's the IXIC, the NASDAQ Composite. Remember, this guy got over the July 8th breakdown bar, played with it for about 6 bars, gets over it last night or the night before, stretches out tonight, which means it's probably going to try to tag this high. 44.8593, you're at 44.73, so another 12 points higher. What's another dirty dozen? I'm going to go for the highs there. And then the guy that just can't do anything is the Russell, and the Russell still can't do anything. Goes over, back under, less volume in this retest regenerate zone again, and looks like it's going to try to fail. So you've got strength in the SPX, strength in the NDX, strength in the NASDAQ. Dow Jones, I didn't show it, but it's not doing anything. It's just hanging there. Here's the Dow. And then the Russell. And the Russell struggling. So you got the Dow and the Russell struggling. The other three just power on. Looking at the sectors. Let's go look over sectors here in a second. So what do we got here in the sectors? Alright, so let's start with the strongest ones right now. IYT does a doji This one also had an ABCD structure. I believe we almost finished it, not quite. So a little bit more. That one's going to be finished off. And so there, you can see how, you know, they're still putting them together. Yeah, they're tighter, but yeah, they keep making higher highs and they keep doing it on nothing. But they keep doing it. And, you know, as long as the market wants to do it, the market does it. SOX was the one we were talking about last night. So the SOX comes into the lows here. So remember last time we were talking about a range trade. We were talking about this area, and then underneath it was another range, and actually it was a little bit higher. Let me try to do those right. So it's really these tops that gave you that top range, and then from underneath there. So it's down in the bottom top, the top of the bottom range. Now what that is doing is two or three things here. So first of all, it's testing back on this low that was on July 17th. You can see the volume there was higher than it was today. That low was 87.70, excuse me, the low was 86.19. Today's low, 86.21. So you didn't quite test it. You're coming at it with volume. The other thing you're doing is you're coming into these other two big bars that are over here, one of which is the anchor, which is 86.21. That's exactly where it got to today, closed slightly over it. So to me, if I'm looking at this, you know, the question is will this thing bounce or not? You know, it's right here at the support zone. You know, if the buyers are going to show up, this is the spot. Because if they don't, folks, there's really, other than these two swing point lows and the volume that's all concentrated down here on the bottom end of that range, there's nothing underneath there, right? And it's because it just made a straight line move up on nothing. And so you have no bars of significance on the way up. All you have are these. And so if you get into this lower end, this becomes the critical area, of course. And if it comes straight down, more than likely to bounce off of that, but that would try to set up some sort of an ABCD structure of a downside. But right now, it's just into the bottom of these big bars, coming into it with decent volume, but not huge volume. So tomorrow really is the day. Do they turn around and like they do on almost everything else, decide this is the bargain today and jump all over it? Because it seems like every day there's a new bargain that's out there, and you know, maybe this is tomorrow's bargain. I don't know. Let's see how it reacts, because when you come into something like this, you want to see how it reacts. Another strong one today, XLB going for the highs. XLE is bouncing back up, but really not any strength there. XLF neither. XLI is really struggling still. So your industrials are struggling, which is kind of what you're seeing in the Dow as well. The XLK got that doji at the highs that I was just talking about a bit earlier. Your XLP and XLU are struggling. The XLV, this is where the other strength was today. XLV gets over one swing point high, going for the others, got decent volume. This was the IBB. IBB skies up, tags this high, 59.85, got to 60.31, closes just underneath it. So you go over it, back under it, but you have more volume, so it's not really a test failure per se off the swing point high, but you're also going into an area that should give it resistance, and that's what it's doing. And that's off of these two bars primarily, and that's really the test. So tomorrow the test will be, is can this one continue on and get all the way back up? And a lot of times these things climb all the way back up to the first breakdown bar. And this was down, I think it was down 33% if I remember right. It was down a lot. And here we go, right back the other way. Nothing like a bullish market. So IBB was pressing tomorrow here, just like on the SOX, is going to be a critical test. Not because, but the other big push today, of course, was Apple. Apple actually got over this high, closed over it. That high was 97.10. You close at 97.19. You're not getting much volume on these pushes anymore. You know, this was earnings, but still up and over it. That one can also go higher. And now this one has an ABCD structure, you know, to the upside. So you can kind of see it here. And yeah, let me see. So this actually got lower. Yeah, so that would be, I mean, if you do it this way, it's up to about there, so it's not very much farther. There's about 104, I believe, is where the number was. So, you know, Apple, such a huge weighting. It's 20, well, last time I checked it was 23%. I haven't looked in a month or so, but it's got to be at least that much or more now because it keeps gaining market share. So, you know, Apple, of course, when it moves, it moves. And especially to the upside, it moves the market because everybody gets bullish as a result of it. In the Ox markets, I didn't really see much today. Gold didn't do anything. I did see another failure on the bonds. They got up to the highs. They couldn't really extend away. You really want this to extend away if you're bullish. It didn't. That's going to come back and do the test probably. Let me see, it may already started 115.19. Yeah, it did actually. So it started to do a retest regen and on nothing. So in a way, that's bullish. You know, you're coming back, you're doing a test, you don't have anything. Nobody wants to sell it on the way back. So that, in a way, is actually a bullish signal on that. I haven't had a chance to look at the overseas markets. I know they were up last night. As you know, they're all extremely bullish other than one or two. Let's just flip through them real quick. So the all ordinaries, that baby just skies, right? It already broken 2 swing points, and now it gets its big push. Let's see what else we got here. So let's look at the rest of Asia real quick and see what that looks like. Here's the 8 shares and the Hang Seng, and push. You know, what else can I say? Push, right? That's what's happening everywhere. HSI, same thing, push. How about Brazil? Brazil's been on a push for a week. Let's see what she did today. Hey, she slowed down. So we got one of them slowing down. Let me see. The Nikkei was the other one that was trying to get to the highs, and I don't think it got there. It's just kind of hanging. Taiwan, PWII, and that looks like it didn't trade today. Either didn't trade or we don't have quotes yet. Let me go over to Europe and see what they did. So we'll look at the CACs first. Now, the CACs hadn't hardly been able to pull off the bottom. So here it is finally, coming back up to test. That low is 44.91 and not quite to it. So it looks like this is going to try to test into the retest regen zone tomorrow. So that's this area here, right at the top of this resistance zone. So it's going to try to test right into it, and we'll see if it can actually get up in there or not. It's been more than 6 bars, high probability it fails right here, and that would be on that test. So that probably hits us tomorrow, and we'll see how it reacts. The DAX, and okay, so the DAX now tested. The DAX actually did the test. 98.07 1/4, got to 98.02, so it's not quite done, but it's in that retest regen zone right now. And as I said before, this is where you would expect it to fail. That's where you would expect the buyers to dissipate and the sellers to show up. So that will also be a test tomorrow as to just how bullish Europe wants to be. You've got the CACs coming into the bottom where it should fail. You've got the DAX going into the top of the retest regen zone, and that's where it should fail. FTSE. And the FTSE's just hanging on doji at resistance. Yeah, so that's that almost looks like it finished off as a result of the way it did it. Looks like it almost finished off the ABCD structure as well. Not quite, but almost. A little bit higher. Okay, so world markets still strong, right? Europe maybe going to have an issue tomorrow. U.S. markets, they're struggling. If you look outside just big cap, they're struggling. But the big cap keeps moving the indexes and making everything look bullish, bullish, bullish. All right, I had a couple questions emailed to me. Let me see. Let me take care of those first, and then I will look at whatever you might have. So, excuse me. I saw some wild price swings in Boeing and Whirlpool. Please comment. Okay. So a wild price swing. So this thing gaps down. Well, let's look at it a different way if we're going to look at price swings so I can look intraday. So bear with me. Let me grab another chart. Do I have the other chart? Don't know if I do. There it is. Okay, so here. So Boeing, let's look at Boeing inside. So put it on 2 days so we can see the drop. And I don't know if that's wild price swings in my book. I mean, you just had a lot of volume, right? And this thing gaps down, and a lot of price action as a result, and you close back down near the gap low. So I don't really have a comment on that. I mean, it just looks like normal kind of price action to me. So if I go back to the charts, okay, so I want to see what the volumes look like compared to these other lows, and you can see the volume did expand. So I believe someone asked me, well, I know somebody asked me, I don't remember who, asked me about this last night. I said it actually looked reasonably positive last night. Well, it didn't matter. It came down and hit the lows. So the next question would be what does that start to look like on a weekly? And this top was 127.21. So, well, this is where it gets more interesting because, last night it had the potential to actually trade back up instead of down on earnings. Well, it didn't. And that's usually why you don't get in front of earnings, because you never know what the expectations are going to do to whatever is reported, whether it's good or bad. The key thing is as it gets into this bar, if it does, on a weekly, and that's the bar from February 3rd. If it gets into that bar and stays into that bar, then you're gonna see a situation where it tries to drift lower, and it's going to test the bottom of the bar prior, which is 123.08. So this, to me, the way it's set up here, looks to me like it is going to go down and test that lower bar 123 area. Looks like this will break. And if you just do the ranges, a range breakout is going to take it another 5 points, takes it about 121.5, 122. The other one was Whirlpool, and I know Whirlpool was moving around. This is what it looks like here, and so Whirlpool actually did do a wide variation, right? And it closed at the highs. Okay, so now this one's a little bit more interesting in terms of moving around. Let's see what the I keep losing my other chart here. I guess I'll have to shrink this so I can find it. Okay, so Whirlpool. Let's see what they did. Well, this was just a gap down, and they bought it. So to me, I expected from the question I was going to see this kind of stuff, right? Up and down, big wide stuff. Not really. I mean, here gapped it down, and maybe there's a conference call that starts talking about something that wasn't in the numbers themselves, and then you get the short covering back the other way. I mean, that to me, that's the sort of thing that drives these. Now, if they're thin stocks, it could be a different story, but this is not a thin stock. This is just where somebody comes in, they look at it, and they say, hey, it looks to me like they sold this down too far, and it's not going to break. Now, the problem is you're leaving high volume at a low now, and that eventually becomes a problem. Let's see what the weekly looks like. Yeah, and here's the other thing well, here's the other piece of it. Whirlpool is coming into, just like we were looking at Boeing, Whirlpool coming into the exact same sort of setup here, right? That high volume, it's not going to have quite as much volume, and he comes into it and flips around. So Whirlpool's just telling you it's going to stay in a range for now, and there's actually kind of two ranges inside there, and it's just going to stay in that range and consolidate. It's not ready to give it up. So that's probably as much as I can offer on that one. I saw a question up here. Let's see. SOX seems to have successfully tested that high volume 23rd bar. I assume it will go back the other way from here. I think I covered that when I was talking about it. You showed a look at Boeing pre-market. It gapped up much higher to 132. It gapped up. Oh, you should look at BA pre-market. It gapped up. Oh, I see. Okay, well, I didn't see that, of course, in these charts. I would have to go pull up a different chart for that, and I don't have them handy. But, okay, so it gapped up. Again, it could be the exact same scenario, because most of the time earnings are announced in the mornings, and then a conference call follows, right? And so when they come on the conference call, maybe they start guiding down the next quarter, maybe, you know what I mean? Those are the kinds of things that happen in the call. Or maybe you know, the revenue source wasn't what they thought it was when they looked at the headline numbers. Those are the kinds of things that cause these huge gyrations, and that's probably, you know, if you went back and analyzed it, that's probably what took place in those names. Another question here that was emailed to me, McDonald's. I forgot this one. Let me take it right quick. Okay, so McDonald's reports, they trade down, and they pretty much just trade down, but there's really not much volume here. So this is on the weekly now. Actually, I take it back. This is the weekly, not the daily. So the question is it likely to test the weekly support levels, as it has not reached down to the swing point lows on the daily. Weekly support levels, well, it just blew through one of them. You're going to get another one down here tonight, and it's already testing into it, and it's going to have the volume. So this bar from March 10th is where it's going to probably try to test to. Let's go over and see what the daily looks like. Yeah, this doesn't look bad actually on the daily. So you had, didn't McDonald's report this morning? Not last night, or maybe it reported yesterday. Here, let me see. McDonald's reported, what's today? Yeah. No, it was yesterday. That was yesterday. So that was with the gap down yesterday. Okay, so yesterday was gap down, and then big volume, right? So it comes back the next day to test it, gets underneath it, back over it, less volume. This thing's going to bounce back up tomorrow. You've done the test now, and the test was successful. So assuming it can hold the lows from the big gap down, 95.10, then this thing's going to work back up and try to get back into the gap. Now, anytime you get these big moves, right, this becomes a range for a while. I mean, you got a fairly high volume, wide price spread, right? That price spread is really from here to here. So this becomes the range, and it's going to have difficulty when it gets back up into this gap. So near term, I would think this thing probably, you know, you'll probably see it trade back up this way over the next few bars, and then come back down potentially and test some more, but it's going to range for a while more than likely. That's usually the way those will work out. Okay, so let's see if I got any more questions here. Looks like another one just came in. Let me try to take that one. IBB, 2-bar reversal. Let's go look at IBB again. Well, it's not a 2-bar reversal. A 2-bar reversal would be you go over the previous day or under it, depending on which direction you're going. The previous day, you go over it, you're back under it, you have less volume, and you're extended. So that's a bunch of stuff, right? And this is not even, it doesn't have the prior bar, right? It's way over the prior bar. This is really just a test, and this is what I covered. It's a test into resistance, right? It does test the high, that's what it's testing. Got a lot more volume, but it's also testing here, right? It's also testing these two bars. And that's what's holding it now. I saw Gillhead Sciences after hours, blew numbers away, had FDA approval on a drug, and they couldn't even trade up. And they're one of the largest of the two weightings. The other one today that drove this thing was BIBB. Let's take a look at these two right quick while we're here and see what's going to drive it tomorrow. Okay, so Gilead, I said Gillhead, it's Gilead. Gilead Sciences is already at the highs. And so tomorrow it's going to test those highs and try to break higher. But that's probably why it couldn't move tonight. The one that moved today had already sold off and then spikes back up and gets over the highs. So big, huge, powerful move here, and I don't know if that's over the weekly, no. So that's going to try to go all the way back to the top. That's 358, and it's trading at 337. So another 20 points before it gets there. Pretty decent volume, you know, not bad. It's going to have a decent weekly, and yeah, it's going to try to trade back to the highs. So the biotechs, you know, look like they're going to try to trade all the way back up before this is over. Does that mean that they will do it immediately? Well, not really, because they've already had a nice big run. So the question tomorrow, of course, is what do they do here? Do they fail here and get a retrace? Note that if you're long this or short, short these, if you're long these, you're going to want to try to add on some sort of a retrace for the test of the top. If you're short, you're going to try to take out whatever you've got, right? Maybe flip around and go with it or something, but you're not going to want to sit there because more than likely, the way this is set up, it is going to try to get back to the highs. And you see that in the two heaviest holdings. Okay, so tomorrow, what do we got? We got indexes bullish. We got sectors mixed. We got world markets bullish. We got trend that's up. That sounds like this thing's going to try to push again. I mean, what can I say? It looks like it's going to try to push again. Realize the farther this thing pushes, and as you get closer to that round 2000 number, it gets harder and harder to keep pushing. So there's, you know, all these various world exogenous events that could, you know, come in one day. But look at what happened today. Apple misses earnings, they're up 3%. After hours, Facebook's up 8%. Another big cap name. You just had CMG up, you know, 50 bucks. You've had, I mean, all the big stuff keeps showing positive, and that keeps pushing. Oh, one other thing to come in is you got PMIs tonight in Asia, in Europe tomorrow, in the US tomorrow as well. Those, of course, if they come out negative, that could be a big negative too, because right now a lot of this is belief that the economic picture is getting better around the world. So, all right, that's it for tonight, folks. Thanks for joining me, and have a great night. I'll see you next time. Until then, I'm LA. This is, and it was, your daily TA wrap. Take care. Have a good one.